Alright, new episode, new chunk. I'm excited, you're excited, it's exciting. So, last episode we rolled the Kharid mine chunk, which contains two significant pieces of new content. Firstly, it contains the titular Kharid mine. This contains my first source of silver and gold, because the mining and smithing rework removed ores and bars from effectively all drop tables. This is big because it unlocks both significant grinds and significant upgrades. The key upgrades are the Amulet of Glory and the Ring of Wealth, which are both significant PVM upgrades for all combat styles, with the Ring of Wealth also acting as a nice quality of life upgrade with its tier 2 luck bonus, which slightly increases some drop rates. In addition to these two best in slot items, I also have my first reliable source of other pieces of gold and silver jewelry, like Rings of Dueling for teleports or Rings of Recoil for PVM. I don't think any of these are technically chunk tasks, and honestly, they're mostly fairly niche these days, but there might be some use cases for a chunk account, which I can go over as and when they become relevant. Now, in addition to being a best in slot, the Amulet of Glory also represents a skill challenge. I need to get level 80 crafting to make it, which is not going to be a trivial grind. I do though at least now have access to common and uncommon gem rocks. Mining these and cutting the gems you get is actually a classic mid-level training method for regular Ironman, so it's fortunate I'll have access to this method. For a regular Ironman with a gem bag and access to teleports, this might take about 20 hours. For me with my chunk restrictions, maybe a bit longer, but it is infinitely better than my previous method of killing corpse spiders in the Lumbridge catacombs. More trivially from the mine, I also have the smithing chunk task of making a gold bar at level 40 smithing, but already had that level, so I'll be able to knock that out fairly easily. The second big piece of content in this chunk is the Garden of Kharid. The Garden of Kharid was added back in November 2022, a few months after Het's Oasis. It follows the same theme of regeneration in the desert and is basically a bunch of druids living in tents next to a herb patch. That said, it's surprisingly impactful and is chock-a-block with content. The garden contains pickpocketable Crux equal druids and Crux equal knights. The latter of these two creates the first chunk task, level 83 Thieving. That said, I likely need to go much further than level 83 because these NPCs have, you could say, interesting drop tables. In addition to GP, they can also drop a variety of herb seeds. In particular, they have certain unique drops, only obtainable in this chunk. Whilst not technically collection log items, they fall under the umbrella of untracked uniques, and I will be going for them. They include Sand Seeds at a 1 in 217 drop rate, Mystical Sand Seeds at 1 in 834, Supreme Growth Potions at 1 in 3616, and the Crux equal Hood at a pretty crazy 1 in 50k. The last item only drops in the Crux equal Druids, so I'll be focusing on them. Some back of the envelope math suggests getting the Hood will take about 50 plus hours if I go on raid, and I'll be pushing 90 Thieving by the time this grind is done. Finally, I now have access to a herb patch, so I'll need to plant the highest level herb I have access to, which should be Fellstalk Seeds at level 91 farming, although that's boostable. I guess my statement at the end of last episode that I should be done with farming for a while has quickly proven incorrect. There is one final piece of content here, which is the Garden of Kharid reward shop, run by the Druid Sidekicks. The currency used here is called Crux equal Favor, and you earn it by harvesting herbs in any herb patch around Gilnor. Now, the exact rate at which you gain Favor depends on which herbs you plant, but it caps out at 50 Favor per seed if you plant the recommended herb of the day. Now, the stuff in this reward shop, at least the non-consumable stuff, definitely falls under the chunk task umbrella. It's full of useful, chunk-specific unlocks that I would definitely count as chunk tasks. But there's a catch. Because I'm limited to one herb patch, if I do one herb run per day, always using the correct seed, I will get 50 favor per day. And I will finish unlocking all the rewards in, 15 years. Yeah, and that's assuming I always have access to the seed of the day. Now, sure, I can do more than one herb run a day, and there's unlocks within the shop that increase the rate you get favor at, but no matter how you spin it, this is a multi-year farming grind where I will just be logging in, planting a herb, and then logging out. For that reason, I will make this a passive task, for basically the same reason that farming itself is a passive task until I unlocked Het's Oasis. But rest assured, I will still be planting herbs whenever I can, harvesting them and buying the rewards as I unlock them. Beyond this, I have some other minor chunk tasks, like I have some new tasks for the Lumbridge and Desert Area Diaries, and I have one new attackable monster in my chunk, the Scorpion. And that's basically it. So, without further ado, let's get chunking. Alright, I'm about to enter my chunk for the first time. Please ignore the angry demons here. They're not chunk tasks because they are part of the Demon Flash Mob minigame, which is not chunk specific. Now, the first thing to note in this chunk is the Alkharid mine itself, which the chunk takes its name from. We got silver rocks here, we got gold rocks, we have this dungeoneering portal I can't interact with because I don't have the levels. And we have the uncommon and common gem rocks. They are probably the most important part of the mine. The uncommon gem rocks because that's how I'll be training crafting from now until the heat death of the universe. It is actually a competitive rate with like regular Ironman accounts. It's pretty good. I guess actually maybe the gold is more important because that's the only reason I can make jewelry. Look, both the gold and the gem rocks are fantastic unlocks, but it's the gem rocks that will make this a good chunk and not a 500-hour arthritis-inducing crafting death chunk. Up to the left of the mine, there's not much. It leads up to a rock, but I can't leave a desert, so, you know, there you go. Now, on the other side of the mine, there is something much more impactful, the Crux Equal Encampment, or I think it's called the Garden of Alkharid. And it's this that should provide the longer of the two grinds, in fact, because it has Crux Equal Knights that I can pickpocket at level 83 Thieving, and Crux Equal Druids that I can pickpocket from level 45 Thieving maybe? Either way, I already have that level. The Druids give gold and also, I think, seeds. And I probably already mentioned this in the intro, they also have some unique rare drops that will make me stay here for a long time. I have my first herb patch here, so I'm going to start growing seeds straight away, because Herblore will be crucial to this account long term. And if I'm getting seeds from the Thieving grind, then this should work out nicely. There's a shop here run by Sidekicks. Now this shop is potentially... I'm a bit confused. He won't talk to me. Maybe I need to talk to the other druid first? Okay, so I figured this out, kind of. The druids here are part of the renewal of a desert that came with Het's Oasis to the south. These guys have a special interest in herbs, which is why they give me reputation for harvesting herbs. Now, I'll put a screenshot from the wiki, but basically you get more favor for higher tier herbs, and it's done per seed. So if you plant a guam seed, you'll get 10 favor for harvesting it, no matter whether you get 5 herbs or 50. Also, each day there's a herb of the day, so if you care about reputation, you should always plant that. That said, given my chunk limitations, I might not always have the herb of the day. And what do you do with the reputation? Well, you spend it at Sidekick's Shop of Balance. He sells both upgrades and consumables. I think that all the upgrades should probably count as chunk tasks in theory, although in practice they are very time gated. There's a bunch of useful unlocks, like the Plant Power unlock lets you plant multiple seeds per patch, pieces of the farmer's outfit that give you more farming XP. It's all good stuff, but it will take literally years to unlock this with one herb patch, even if I always have the right herbs, so I'll be considering this shop time gated, and hence it's something I'll do passively. Okay, I'm going to start I think with a Thieving grind for reasons that I'll explain later. That means I'll be parked out in this druid camp for potentially weeks until I get level 83 Thieving and, more notably, all the untracked uniques from pickpocketing the druids. So I've got a bunch of herb seeds here that I will be planting as we go along. I don't have the daily herb seed, which is Torstal, so my first ever seed planted on this account will be Haralander, because I can use those to make combat potions. What a proud moment for a chunker. First ever herb seed planted. Wow, that's the insta-grow potion already. Chunk task done. That's like 1 in 3,000? I've been here less than 10 minutes. Guys, look at this chat message. You somehow managed to take the druid's hood from their head without them noticing. Now, look at my inventory. Now, look at this poor druid's bald shiny head. This is a 1 in 50,000 drop. 1 in 50,000. I've been here 16 minutes. I've done like 200 pickpockets. At most. This is crazy? I thought I'd be here to level 90. I thought I would need 2.5 million thieving XP to go on raid. This is almost too lucky. Like, it's a mistake. But this is the item, right? It's in my inventory. Editor Smash. Yes, this is the item. I'm just an incredibly spooned snowflake Ironman, carelessly frolicking through chunks whilst others struggle with the harsh realities of RNG. And if you're someone currently with an RNG grind, let me give you some sage wisdom that will 100% not come back to bite me in the future. Just get the drop. Hey, it's another chunk task done, the sand seed. I'll talk about what this does in a little bit. I'm not sure when I got it, but I got this little fellstalk seed down here, which is good because that is the highest tier herb seed I can get in my chunks. So it's a seed I will eventually need to plant as part of my chunk task. And now I have it. And there's level 82 Thieving. The XP here is roughly on par with doing safe cracking for me, but here I actually get loot, so this is better. Oh my god. This guy literally stole my earth impling right out of my hands. Not content with just photobombing my clips anymore, Romdaska has reached new levels of trolling. Truly a monster. What? This is outrageous. That is the thieving pet. That is Ralph the thieving pet. No, look, this has to stop. This is too lucky, this can't be right. There has to be some kind of cosmic injustice building into my future. I get the Druid Hood at less than 0.5% of the drop rate, and then, because there's nothing left in the scribe for me to get spooned on, the game just gives me the pet? Why? There's probably some poor Supreme Chunker tearing their hair out, thousands of hours dry on a grind for a skilling pet. I don't even need it. Anyway, let's go somewhere private and check it out. Okay, he is extremely cute. Like, I think raccoons are adorable in real life, fluffy little trash pandas, and this guy is super cute too. He's gonna stay for the rest of the thieving grind. Hey, and that is the mystical sand seed in my inventory, and that is chunk task done. And that is the last of the RNG tasks in this chunk. I thought I would quickly show you guys what the mystical sand seed does. It's basically just a one-click teleport to the herb patch up here. This is also why I decided to do the thieving grind before the crafting grind, because I can now use this to travel back and forth to the mine. It's a pretty cool animation too, and the regular sand seed is the same, except it is one use only. Alright, I am very close to level 83 thieving, just a few successful pickpockets away. And there you go, 83 thieving, very nice. And that is the level for Crux Equal Knights, but the level is not the chunk task. Pickpocketing a knight is, so let's go do that. And there you go, 278 XP, and that is chunk task done. And it's basically thieving done too for this chunk. This has gone better than I could possibly have imagined. I thought I would need to get around 90 thieving before being done. That is based on the 1 in 50k drop chance for the Crux Equal Hood and 58 XP per pickpocket. Instead, I ended up doing a little over 5k pickpockets, so just 1/10 of how many I thought I would need. Which is crazy, like, this account is becoming frighteningly spooned. I can't keep getting away with this. I did also get all the other uniques, the mystical sand seed, the regular sand seed, and the growth potion, although I guess that's expected, they're not that rare. In terms of herb seed loot, it's not clear from my inventory, but Editor Smash will work it out and put the loot I got on the screen. Honestly, the seeds were maybe a bit disappointing. I thought I would get seeds like all the time, like pickpocketing master farmers, but they're actually quite rare. You mostly just get coins. Although, speaking of coins, I did net myself about 300k, which is not too bad. Now, I've not quite finished with the Gardener Kharid yet, because I still need to plant a fellstalk seed, which is the highest tier herb seed in my chunks. And that requires 91 farming, or more realistically, 88 farming and a +3 boost from a garden pie. But I think that's what I'm going to do next. Actually, let me quickly show you Sidekick's store. You can see I have 200 favor so far, out of the like 250,000 favor I need to buy at the store, so yeah, that is why it's a passive task. I'm not even 0.1% of the way there yet. Alright, that was the best part of a day for me, but probably only a few seconds for you, and that is level 88 farming, which, along with the trusty garden pie, which I've already got in my inventory, what foresight, is enough to plant a fellstalk seed. Although I guess not that much foresight, because I left the actual fellstalk seed in my bank. Okay, one quick teleport up to the herb patch. Man, I love this sand seed. Efficient teleports are such a rarity on a chunk account. let me tell you, moving around the map efficiently just feels nice. Anyway, with the already planted toe flax gone, I can eat the garden pie and then plant the fellstalk seed. I'm not sure if the chunk task is planting it or harvesting it, but just to stay safe, I'll wait an hour or two to harvest it. That's what the other half of the pie is for. Alright, whilst I'm here, I'm going to go speak to this psychics guy because I do now have enough favor to buy the first of the plant power unlocks, plant power tier 1. This lets me plant 2 seeds per patch instead of 1. This is nice because firstly I get double the favor because favor is done per seed, but also I get more herbs, but not quite double the herbs. Basically, it's a way of being less efficient with your seeds, but more efficient with your time and herb patches, because you use twice as many seeds and you get like, I don't know, 66% more herbs or something. Is that useful to me? I mean, I'm not sure exactly how useful it is. It really depends on how efficiently I can gather seeds. It is probably worth it for the low level seeds at least, but regardless, I want to buy everything from this store eventually. And I guess I'll be back in a few hours to finish up my fellstalk chunk task. Now, whilst I wait for the fellstalk seed, I figured it's the end of the month, again, so I should probably make my monthly statue. Wow, I got the pattern exactly right first time. That doesn't happen often. And that is level 12? Yes, 12 construction. Not useful just yet. And it should also be a prayer level. It is level 70 prayer. Nice little milestone. That is the entire regular prayer book unlocked, if I ever end up doing King's Ransom, which is like a million chunks away. Alright, this is it. Picking the fellstalk. Do I need the boost? Interesting. So I can actually harvest it without the level, but also without getting the XP. I didn't know that. I will eat the pie though, and that is the first fellstalk picked and chunk task done. And basically that is the Kharid garden done. So the rest of the chunk is mostly just going to be mining gems at the Kharid gem mine. Now there's some pretty easy chunk tasks to grab right away. Mining silver at the Kharid mine is a chunk task. And I can put it in the ore box, which is pretty cool. I didn't realize I could do that. That's interesting. I don't know if that's that helpful. It might be. Wonder if I can put gold in the ore box as well. No, I can't put gold in the ore box. I can only put silver in the ore box. I guess the gold is quest locked behind something because I'm pretty sure my regular Ironman can put gold in the ore box. I'm back in Lumbridge and I'm going to smelt my first silver bars. Somehow. I can never remember how. I figured it out, let's make some silver bars, which is also a diary task. And once these are done, I can smelt the gold ore I got into gold bars. And the gold bars are now smelted, which was also a chunk task because it's the highest level smithing challenge in my chunk. Now it's time for gem mining. I'm here in the Kharid mine once again, and this is largely going to be my fate for the next 30 hours or so. I'm going to mine a full inventory of gems, and then, once I get a full inventory, there's 2 things I can do. I can either bank them, I have a ring of dueling in my inventory and then I can teleport back here with the sand seed, or I can cut the gems in situ and drop them. Cutting and dropping is presumably faster crafting XP because I don't waste any time banking. But then I don't get to keep any gems. And cut gems could be useful at some point, mostly for invention. Now invention is pretty far off, so I think it really depends on how much it slows the grind down if I bank the gems rather than dropping them, so I'll need to test that. You know, I did not expect the first level of this grind to be a hunter level, but that is level 56 hunter. And a mithril bar from the impling, which is super interesting. This place is actually chock-a-block with implings, including some higher tier ones I can't even catch. Anyway, the spirit impling is super interesting. It's got a ginormous drop table, truly gigantic, like over 50 items. Basically anything that can be used in summoning pouches. But I only really care about a handful of items, the mithril, adamant and runite bars. For reasons that could be deliberate or might be an oversight, the Spirit Impling was one of the only sources of metallic bars that survived the Great Stone Spirit Purge of 2019, when basically every single source of ores or bars were removed from drop tables. Now, the drop chance on these bars are pretty low, but it does potentially open up some interesting upgrades to my armor or, if I get rune bars, even to my pickaxe and hatchet. Honestly, the mithril bars are by far the least interesting. There's not much mithril stuff I need, but I can at least upgrade my glove or boot slot. And yeah, there's actually multiple things here that are now potentially new bests and slots. I don't think any really impact the chunk that much. I'm not sure what the chunk etiquette is here. Like, is there a specific way of determining which best and slot I should go for if I can only get one? I don't know. You know, whatever. Mythical Gauntlets. Let's go. Alright, that's all smithed, and that is my new best and slot to replace my black gauntlets. Editor Smash. Speaking of non-chunk task best and slot upgrades, I also grabbed some blue Dragonhide chaps from an eclectic impling. Blue D-hide chaps are one of the two upgrades I can get from eclectics, the other being spiky red vambraces. Now, blue D-hide armor is tank armor, so in RS3 it doesn't boost your DPS at all, which is a shame, but it is a nice upgrade defensively over the studded leather chaps that were my previous best in slot. Okay, I've got a few gems in my bank already, but this was a few hours worth of gem mining, and let's see what this gets us. Alright, that is level 62 crafting, and look at this XP, 270k. Level 63 crafting. We're on to emeralds, and that is level 74 crafting, and we're breaching 300k XP per hour. Insane. Alright, it's level 65, and probably the last level from this bunch of gems, but that is 350k XP per hour with rubies. Editor Smash. I did all the gems. I had a few diamonds and dragonstones from the Calphite Queen grind as well, so I did those. You only get sapphire, emeralds, and rubies from the gem mines. And this is as good a time as any to tell you about the results of my crafting research. I tested 3 methods of gathering supplies. Firstly, gem mining with banking. This netted me about 40k XP per hour in banked XP. I then tested cutting and dropping the gems in situ, which got me about 50k XP per hour, but I don't get to keep the gems. It's also a bit less AFK actually, because cutting the gems is slightly more click intensive than just banking them. I then also tested mining silver and putting it in the ore box. In this case, I banked about 45k crafting XP per hour, assuming I turn all the silver ore into bars and then the bars into tiaras. Now it might seem like the silver method is better than the gem method if I'm banking, but it's really not. Cutting the gems is super fast, which is why I treat banked XP as almost equivalent to actual XP if it's in the form of gems. But smelting silver bars and making tiaras is much slower. So in reality, the silver is an interesting thing to test, but it's just not worth it. So really the question becomes, is keeping the gems worth getting XP 20% slower? And I think it is. At the end of the day, I'm going to chisel around 15,000 gems. Not banking saves me like 5 hours-ish, so the way I see it is it worth spending 5 hours to just get 15k uncut gems banked? And I think it almost certainly is. You can disassemble them from invention components, you can turn them into portals to divination, or you can just sell them for GP. Either way, I think it's worth banking, and let's get back to the grind. I missed the level 2 AFK, but that is the first mining level with grind, level 76 mining. And level 66 crafting. This level was from when I was testing not banking the gems, and that's level 67 crafting. Got the clip this time, and that is level 77 mining. Mining XP per hour is not great, but I'm spending a long time here, so it adds up. Not again, bad YouTuber, missing the clip, but that was level 78 mining. There's so many implings here. I think there's like 3 separate impling spawn spots in this chunk, and that is level 57 hunter. Level 79 mining! Alright, you've seen 3 mining levels, but no crafting levels, which means I've got a lot of gems in the bank. I have about 10,000 uncut gems, so all told that should be like 600k XP, which is about 2/3 of what I think I still need. So let's get chiseling. Alright, that was a lot of gems. About 10,000 gems, and it's level 75, about 100k off the next level, and I'm probably less than 10 hours away from finishing up this grind. Although these is coming out tomorrow, so that might put a dampener on things. This is probably the last mining level of the grind, and that is level 80 mining. Nice little milestone level to finish up with. And that is level 76 crafting. We're almost there. Almost. And that is level 77 crafting, which means we're done with the crafting grind. Which might be surprising news, considering that I need level 80 crafting, for the Amulet of Glory. But I have some good news and some bad news. The good news is I can make a crafting potion. I got a single Wagali seed for my Thieving grind at the Druids, and with level 42 Herblore, which I have, I can mix the Wagali herb with some frog spawn to make a crafting potion, which boosts my crafting by 3. For the mathematically disinclined, 77 plus 3 is 80, which is the level I need for the crafting of a Dragonstone amulet. I hadn't initially considered a crafting potion because I couldn't previously get Wagali herbs or Wagali seasonless chunk, but now, via the Garden of Kharid, I can get both. If you're curious, the frog spawn comes from gourmet implings, although I can actually fish them myself from the Lumbridge Lair Cave, even without light source, something I discovered last episode. Now, for the bad news. I can't actually make an Amulet of Glory anyway. Yes, I know, it's a bummer. What gives? Well, I discovered about halfway through this grind that the chunk picker thinks I can make my own ball of wool by shearing a sheep from Farmer Fred's field. Now, a bit of his field is in my chunk, and the sheep do spawn in there, but the only way in is via this little stile over here, which is not in my chunks. So, unless I can find some way of telekinetically shearing these sheep over the fence, I am all out of luck. Now, there still is a way to get a ball of wool in my chunks. Baby implings. Baby implings drop balls of wool as a 1 in 10 drop. They're quite common, and I have level to catch them, so problem solved? Well, kind of. Firstly, overworld implings don't create chunk tasks, so regardless of whether or not I decide to catch them for a ball of wool, I don't have to. I have the option to, sure, but I don't have to. But why am I even hesitating? Surely this is a slam dunk. Well, there's a catch. Baby implings do have a 1 in 10 drop for a ball of wool, which would be cool, but they also have a 1 in 100 drop of a piece of flax, which would be a disaster. If I did catch baby implings, and I did get the flax, I would immediately need to turn it into a bowstring and then get 95 fletching for an Elder Shield Bow. That is easily a 200-hour grind. Now, there is like a 90% chance I get the ball of wool first, but what if I didn't? I mean, that would suck. Truly. So for now, I will only make the unstrung Dragonstone amulet, which technically I don't even have to do according to my rule set, but I've got the level, so I may as well. I'll also make my Ring of Wealth, as before. In the future, I might decide to go get the ball of wool from baby implings, but there's a decent chance I roll the chunk that lets me into Farmer Fred's field before the next combat grind anyway, so I don't see a reason to risk it. Alright, have the crafting potion and the Dragonstones. And before the boost goes away, that is going to be the unstrung dragon amulet made. Now let's go make the Dragonstone ring. And we can enchant it with the cosmic runes I got from shooting stars. And finally, the chunk task itself, equipping it. That's my new best in slot ring for most purposes. For some niche uses, a Ring of Recoil might be better, I guess, but in general this is a 1 to 2% DPS increase for all my combat styles, and it also gives me the Tier 2 luck bonus, which is a roughly 1% increase in drop rates for a variety of bosses and Slayer monsters. And that is the last chunk task done. It's not. No, it never is. I need to kill a scorpion, because it's a new monster in my chunks. And sit. And I need to make an unstrung holy symbol in the Lumbridge Furnace, because that is a medium task for the Lumbridge Achievement Diary. Also, this is not a chunk task, but it is a little fun Kharid fact. I mentioned earlier that you can pickpocket the Crux Equal Druids and the Crux Equal Knights. But there's actually a third pickpocketable NPC here, Ghostisticks. He has the same thieving requirement as the regular druids, but when pickpocketed, he only gives low-level fish. I already had access to these, so it's not useful, but it is funny. Also, let's go check out the Crux Equal Reward shop before we roll again, because we actually have enough reputation to unlock Plant Power Tier 2. This lets me plant 4 seeds per patch, but again, each subsequent seed provides fewer and fewer herbs per seed, so it's unlikely I'll be planting 4 seeds very often. I've already run out of a bunch of the higher tier herbs. But this just shows that I am slowly chipping away at the content of this reward shop. I have to say, look at this poison guam. I am a level 88 farmer, and yet I cannot grow a guam seed without it getting poisoned multiple times. Life is tough without super compost. And finally, in the interest of chunk integrity, there's one more thing to consider before calling this chunk done. Now, if you cast your mind back to the distant past of about 12 months ago, you might remember that I backlogged a pretty serious grind. Repudemons. I unlocked the Repudemon chunk back in September last year. I then unlocked the Shattered Worlds minigame as my next chunk roll, which provided a way of training Slayer. These two chunks, the Repudemons themselves, and then a method to get the required Slayer level to kill them, in theory means I need to get all the unique items from the Repudemon collection logs. In reality, I decided at the time this was impossible, because I couldn't kill a single Repudemon, let alone the 30,000 I would need to kill to hit the pet drop rate. I mean, seriously, these guys are incredibly dangerous. At the time, I decked out my regular Ironman in the same gear as my chunk account and sent them off to their doom as a demonstration of why the grind wasn't feasible. That said, I've had some upgrades since then, notably for melee. I've got my skill cape, my dragonstone jewelry, a bunch of dragon items. Maybe it's now a more reasonable grind? And I mean, kind of. I've decked out my poor old Ironman come stunt double in matching gear ChunkSmash once again. In some cases, I couldn't get a 1-to-1 match, so I used a substitute, but I always upgraded, so I used a Bandos plate body over a dragon chain, which is a bit of an upgrade. Because I don't have a dragon chain on my regular Ironman, I don't fancy killing the Calvert Queen to get one. And looking at this, I think I probably could get a single kill, because my regular Ironman does just about manage to do it, whilst going through an entire inventory of salmon. Granted, he's got slightly better gear, and he's got archaeology relics as well, and he's maxed. Also, and I only just realized this when looking at the recording, I'm on a Repudemon task, meaning I was benefiting from an extra 14.5% accuracy and 9.5% damage the whole time, which is about a 25% DPS boost that I simply can't get on ChunkSmash because I can't get a Repudemon Slayer task in these chunks, or a Slayer helm. But all in all, I reckon it's possible that if I turned up with a full inventory of sharks, I could maybe get a kill on ChunkSmash, especially if I took the time to get 99 attack and strength first. It's not guaranteed. The Slayer task buff in hindsight is big, but it's not a complete meme that I could kill one anymore, which is honestly surprising to me. I think getting the collection log itself is still a meme 100%. You can see that my regular Ironman went through a full inventory of food. In fact, I could barely eat fast enough, which was part of the problem because I couldn't build any adrenaline. I would need 30,000 kills to complete the log if I went on raid, and there's no bad luck mitigation, so I would need what, 26 times 30,000 pieces of food? That's like 840,000 sharks. I have no way of getting like good food in that kind of quantity. That said, if you guys want, I could make it a chunk task to kill one singular Repudemon on ChunkSmash. I'd probably need to go back to Shattered Worlds and max my attack and strength to even stand a chance, which would take about 100 hours, but I could try. Or, if you think that getting just a single kill is pointless, I can keep it on the backlog until I get more gear and going for the whole log is more reasonable. Anyway, I thought in the interest of chunk integrity it was important to at least address this because I didn't want you to think I'd forgotten they're backlogged. As always, I'll finish by going over the levels we received in this grind so far. From the Garden of Kharid, we went from 81 to 83 Thieving to steal from the Knights, and level 87 to 88 farming to plant a Fellstalk seed alongside a Garden Pie boost. From the gem grind, we went from level 75 to 80 mining, getting the gems, and level 61 to 77 crafting from cutting the gems. We also went from level 55 to 57 hunter from snapping up some implings as we went. We did another monthly statue, sending me from level 9 to 12 construction, and level 69 to 70 prayer. Finally, from all the daily tasks, I got one fire making level, from 90 to 91. Yeah, daily tasks really don't scale that well into the endgame as a chunk account. So, I guess it's time to roll that chunk? Well, that was abrupt. I thought I was recording the whole time, but like the idiot I am, I wasn't. Anyway, I got the Desert Mining Camp chunk. You can see down here that this was indeed the chunk I rolled, and I didn't fudge it, I'm just dumb. You did miss me talking about my chunks, but I didn't say anything interesting, except to say that my chunk map looked like a chubby bat symbol, which was cool. Anyway, the new chunk lets me continue the tourist trap quest, and allegedly get my hands on some mithril ore. All these other chunk tasks are related to mithril ore, but that's for next episode, so good luck, have fun, and see you next time.